welcome back to another episode of Let Them See Your Mind. I am your host, LD Marie, and let's get started. So, today, right now, is July 4th, and we are less than 24 hours until I enter into my 30s. And I am just sitting here thinking, like, literally, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, which is about 7 o'clock. Not Central Standard Time in Texas. And so I am literally, it's the third over there, it's the fourth over here. So I'm literally just sitting here thinking about the last 10 years of my life. And I thought it would be just a good, just recap and discussion about, oh, what am I expecting for my 30s? Like, what have I learned from my 20s? And what experiences that I'm taking into from my 20s to my 30s? And what I am leaving back there and just doing that. And so when I first got into my 20s, I was literally, I was just starting my first job, my first big girl job. And this was at North Texas State Hospital. And I wasn't a social worker yet. I was just in that type of environment, in a type of area. And so, and I think 3 months later, that's when I actually started social work, because a year later I was super excited because I was turning 21. And so I started like my 20s in, because I was turning 19 to 20, because I graduated college at 19. And then because I had 2 years, probably a year and a half, 2 years. It's because I graduated high school at 17, going on 18. Then I graduated college 19, going on 20. So yeah, started my big girl job, my first one ever. And then 3 months down, that's when I was like, I'm not doing this. I came into social work, so I'm going to get a social work job. And I was very adamant. I was like, I need to get the fuck up out of North Texas State Hospital. I was on a graveyard shift. It was not fun. That was the time that I've gotten attacked. I was attacked by one of the patients, and I was like, no, I'm getting the fuck up out of here. And that was just my mindset. And then that's kind of how I started transitioning from being a psychiatric nurse's assistant to a social worker. And I started working with teenagers, age 13 to 17-year-old boys. And that was the start of my 20s. And the start of my 20s and going through my 20s, it's been a combination of developing the person that I am today. And I've always been on the move, and as a type of person in my 20s. I lived on my own. I had my own stuff. I had a car, but I did fall into a relationship, a situationship, or whatever people want to call it, and with an older man. And that was a consumption of my life during that time, during my early 20s. And that's when other factors came into back. And I feel like looking back into my 20s, going into mid 20s, and a little bit into my late 20s, I really get the foundation of like, I really want a relationship. I really want this. I really want that. And I finally got out of that later into my 20s, after experiencing heartache and pain. And just basically, it's just like, I felt like that I had a tattoo for my head that said sucker in my 20s, as dating and just wanting to be in that committed, serious relationship, when essentially I had no business being in those types of situations whatsoever. I think everybody has their financial difficulties in their 20s, and mine may not been as severe as others, but as far as just me, I know that going into my 30s, I have a significant amount of debt, and I want to change that. And there's a lot of spending habits that I have accrued that I want to change going into my 30s, because I'm it's not necessarily my playtime is over, because definitely is not, because my 30s, we definitely about to turn up in another level, a grown up type of way, but still just learning what I can do within my means instead of just stretching my means. And so getting out of the stretch mentality and into my means, and getting more like, not necessarily toned down, because tone turn down for what? Um but thinking more about just me in general and putting me first, because I feel like a lot of my 20s serve the purpose of others and not necessarily the purpose of me. And that was majority of my 20s. And now that I have developed more and I've learned a lot, I feel that going into my 30s, it's more of a selfish type of era. And all throughout my life, and I've talked about this before, especially on my audio version of my podcast, that I have suffered from self esteem issues, and learning to love myself, learning to love my body, and just making sure that I am able to, not necessarily because I don't, not everybody's going to overcome those types of issues, especially being a big girl, but it is the understanding of this is who you are, and making a one healthy version of you, and making sure that your problems don't equate to your weight, and then also just living in the truth and loving your body. And I felt like in the latter part of my 20s that I began to understand that. Now, a lot of people left during the latter part of my 20s because I started expressing myself in a different way. Um and I'm okay with that, because the people that are for you were going to be for you, and the people that are not, they're just going to politely exit stage left, and they'll go on about their life. I mean, that's basically kind of how it goes, where you begin to show your truth and the way you express yourself. Not a lot of people will be welcoming to that. And so I have learned that within my 20s, not everybody is meant to stay. And there are times where things have to change and things have to grow. I mean, of course, in my the latter part of my 20s, just literally almost 2 years ago, I made the step just to revamp my life and move to a different country. And a lot of people that were within my circle at that time or may not be the same people that are in my circle. And there's a lot of the same people that have supported me when I was in America are not the same people that are supporting me now when I'm in the United Kingdom. And I'm okay with that. And it's learning those different lessons and learning those different strengths that empower me to be a better woman. Now, there are some things that I regret doing in my 20s, but I am grateful for the lessons that were made within those 20s. Now, if I were to restart my 20s all over again, I think one of the first things is I probably wouldn't get a credit card or at least just have one major credit card and that's it, but don't spend it as much. I mean, because I've learned money management things along the way, but at the same time, I think just having that extra money is just, and knowing like, oh, I can pay it later, and then kind of building that habit. So I think one of the things that I would, if I would redo my 20s, do that. If I would go back and redo my 20s and get into therapy a lot earlier than I did, because I did go to therapy, and I need to go back to therapy, to be fair. So the homegirl therapist, I'm hitting up your line. We're gonna be doing some virtual sessions, FYI. Like, my mental health is important. I think more or less focusing on my mental health and a lot of the issues that I had, especially in the relationship realm, could have been easily avoided if I would have just went to therapy. But there's still some things that I am working towards and doing in order to not repeat the same mistakes that I previously done. And it's hard work. I mean, hell, it's hard work to do those things. But I think a lot of those lessons, if I would have had them early on in my 20s, it wouldn't have been as hard. I think early on in my 20s, I would have done this move and this jump a lot sooner. And I think now, it's just not being afraid to do something because of something else. And speaking up more. I think in my 20s, I've let a lot of things slide. And I still let a lot of things slide, but I think there's more opportunities to speak up and do those types of things. And some of the things that I want to build on and go into my 30s is to better communicate my needs and better communicate what I need, and also putting myself selfishly first, which in general, a lot of things that I have done, especially with this channel, have been done in the back burner, and now it's just more of organizing my time in order to do those things more appropriately and get the product that I want and be successful in what I want to do. And so I think those are some of the things that I want to come into my 30s into. And a lot of my 30s is just basically living that soft girl era and living that black luxury area and building on my wealth, because I know a lot of in my 20s I did do that. I had multiple sources of income, and a lot of it was just to maintain a lifestyle, when in actuality a lot of it should have just been like, I could have had a bank of savings if I really played my money right and played my cards right when I had the multiple jobs. And now I need to change my mindset and let my money work for me. And I did try that within my 20s, but it just overcame and did something completely different. But focusing on doing things well to where maybe in the next 5 years I would literally be debt free and have my money work for me, and I don't necessarily have to tick my money like like others do. But I know with rich people, they still have accountants, they still do other things, and they still make sure that their money is right, even though they don't necessarily have to worry about paycheck to paycheck. But they're still like making sure that every dollar, every coin is there. Had a water break, y'all. And so it was, it's just those types of things that I want to bring into my 30s. And some of the things I want to leave in the past in my 20s. But overall, am I excited about stepping into this new chapter? Yes. I feel like there's going to be a lot more different things that'll be coming my way. And I feel like that there is going to be some things that are going to be moving in the direction that I want to move, because I am putting myself first. So I can't wait what 30 has in store for me. I can't wait for what my life has in store for me for the rest of my life. It's just we're ending one decade and entering into another. And I can't wait to see how that goes. So I can't wait to see y'all on the other side of 30. And we're going to have some fun with it. So thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, please like, please subscribe. Also, if you think, what would your advice be for me going into my 30s? What have you learned in your 20s for people that are out there, and what you're wanting to expect as far as moving on into the latter part of your years, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. I'm hoping within the 30s, my hopes are within my 30s is to eventually settle down, have my husband, become a mother. I said, well, within my 30s. I'm not saying within that certain time, but I'm just saying within my 30s, I hope that I have my husband, I have my kids. Well, one of two of my kids, maybe, who knows, and be settled somewhere. Not necessarily, it don't have to be in America, but it could be elsewhere. But who knows? Thank y'all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe this video, and also click that button for any time that I have a video that is posted. This is your girl Elda Marie, and we are out.